Alright guys, everybody sees this chain, right? And everybody knows how sometimes it'll cut this way or cut this way. Well, that's right there explains to you and me that both teeth, both opposing teeth, you got a tooth cutter angle this way and a tooth cutter angle this way. These two opposing teeth create the curve, not one, not the other. You see what I'm saying you? Because each tooth kind of protrudes over the bar in each way. So this tooth may be doing all the cutting, or this tooth may be doing all the cutting. You know what I mean? So, and thinking about that, think about this. Whenever you're cutting, right, and it starts getting into the wood, and then it just stops. It just stops cutting. Now the chain's sharp and it's turning, but it's not pulling no more. It's most time it's not the bar. It's because the saw is the bar has done this. It's cut into the kerf this way and then back into the kerf this way, and then it binds. And it does that because your cutter heights are different. Either that or your record gauge is off. Here you go, YouTube. This is your brain. This is your brain on kerf. I'm not funny, but anyway, this is how I'm demonstrating to you guys the lengths of your cutters affect your cutting. If you have the occasional tooth that's not the same, it doesn't really affect it a lot because not all your teeth are always cutting. Because of the way the wood, the way the chain dives and stuff like that. But anyway, if you have 3 or 4 in a row like this that are drastically changed, well, everybody knows the cutters are pitched, and as you take them back, they get shorter, right? So this is what's going on whenever you're getting down into the wood. We're down into the wood here, and these are the cutters that are in the wood. So we got taking out kerf. These ones ain't even cutting. So you got this. The chain's taking out kerf, but then after you get past this, you got the rest of them down the line are in line. So you got it straightening it back out, and then it's going to curve again, and then it's going to straighten out, and then it's going to bind. Because your bar is straight, right? Your bar is flat, and then after it hits that curve change, it just kind of twists it. It'll bind the bar. That's what's going on, and that's why it's the occasional cutter is not. You may not notice it, but whenever you're getting big wood, I mean, it's good to have your cutters the same because of this right here. It's going to be a whole lot better cut, smoother cut, more consistent cut. And a lot of people don't notice this because of what I showed you, what I showed you about how they rock the saw. But anyway, here you go. Straight edge, cutter edge. You can kind of put your 2 and 2 together, guys. 4 or 5 teeth right here. That's not the same. I'm talking about just 4, not the whole bar, not the whole side. Because you can kind of, if there's 3 or 4 off in a row, it does affect your kerf cutting straight down whenever you get your whole bar in the wood. And I'll explain just a second. Give me time. But I'm talking about right now. If you knock 4 off on one side, the rest of the chain, every other cutter on the saw is the same except for these 4 in a row on one side. On one side, not both sides. I'm talking about 4 on one side because a lot of times if you hit a rock or a nail, you're only gonna hit it with one side. You're not gonna hit it with both sides of the chain, unless you're cutting down onto a rock. Mama's calling. Mama, I'll have to call you back in just a second, babe. Okay. Having said that, everybody says, well, your teeth don't have to be the same. They don't have to be identical, but they can't be a drastic difference in like 3 or 4 versus the rest of them. I mean 4 in a row, because then you'll, and I'm gonna explain to you in a second. Hopefully you understand. Let's see, how am I gonna show you this? I'm fixing to show you. I know you can see that round part right there. You move it up just a little bit. Oh, up, not helping. Back. Back is helping. Okay. See, that's right opposite. I want you to look at this. Everybody sees I'm setting this bar right here on the saw. This bar on the wood. Everybody see what I'm seeing? Everybody see what I'm seeing? There's one tooth actually touching the wood right here. Everybody see what I'm seeing? One, then two. There's actually one tooth actually touching right here. But get down here. Hold on a second, guys. Bear with me in my non-video making skills. Hopefully this will help a lot of people understand. Because a lot of people know, but they don't know why. What in the heck? Oh, I see. My camera's down here on this bottom corner. Alright, guys. Okay, here. You guys can see that one or two teeth are touching that wood. So you're not going to really notice a difference in 3 teeth or even a lot of difference. And honestly, I've seen a lot of people cut. I worked with a logger who ran, he used the tip, he'd run the tip of his bar back and forth all the time. And that was because he didn't know really how to sharpen the saw. So whenever you start cutting into the wood, you have 2 or 3 teeth cutting into the wood, you know. But as you get on, and everybody knows, as you sink down into the wood, then you start binding up. But why is that? Why are we binding up here where we wasn't here? Well, down here you have, you know, 4, 5, 6 teeth into the wood, and the kerf is changing because you have each tooth on each side is creating a curve. So now you have more teeth in the wood. So now you have one side pulling, cutting, taking more kerf out. Now you have one side taking more kerf out, then the other one trying to catch up. Then this one cut more, and then catch up, and that's why it binds when you get here and not here, because you'll have 1 or 2 teeth cutting. But down here, it's really getting in there, and then the kerf is changing, and it just binds up. But and I'm gonna show you something real fast. This is how you're really not noticing that, depending on you run the saw. If you run a saw like I do, and just let it cut down. That's how I run them. You'll notice it quick. But if you run them like this, if you run it over this way, like that, you might start noticing it here. But then look, you have this wood right here. You have this left. So then when you come back here, all you're cutting out is, now you're cutting this. Now you have this wood left. This right here. So now it's just like, you got 1 or 2 teeth cutting again until you get down to where they're all pulling, and then you're going to work this all back over, and then back down, over and back down. So not whenever you work that saw back and forth, not at one time is your saw fully doing work. And you won't notice that in small wood or little wood, but whenever you get in big wood, you'll really start noticing that a lot. And that's because either your rakers or you may not hit one side right or something, you know what I'm saying? That's because your saw is not sharp, or you know what I'm saying? That's because your chain's not right. It's in the filing. It's in the filing. It's in the chain. It's not really in the bar. A lot of people think it's in the bar, but sometimes it can be in the bar, but a lot of times it's not. I'm gonna say 98 times out of 100, or even 99 out of 100, it's in the chain. So, and that's why you're not really gonna notice it. And that's why whenever you power over, when it starts getting stuck, if you kind of power over then back, because you're cutting a little bit out here, then you create a wedge here, then you cut down. You're creating wedges, and that way you're only taking out, you know, a narrow piece of wood at a time. So that's why you're not noticing it. And this saw is cold. This saw has not been started at all. It ain't been started. This is a good saw. And usually it'll start first pull. Hey guys, right here I'm going to just show you real fast how you, if you're on a job and you hit a nail and knock a few teeth off, this is a great way to cut without having, and let's say the chain's still sharp except for one or two, and it'll bind up in the wood, like we've been talking about. But if you run it like this right here, like I'm about to show you, it really is. It's productive, and it's still, the saw is still sharp, and you can run it just like this. You run it not the tip, but you can work your saw back and forth. And that thing's still going to eat, but the few teeth that are knocked off, it ain't really affecting your cut as bad. And I've done this several times, and it works very well, because when you're on a job and you just barely hit 2 or 3 teeth on one side, because it happens all the time on a job. Well, here you go. You see that? So I just ran the. If you're on a job and you're having troubles with it in the kerf like that, that's kind of how you can run the saw and not be in a bind if you ain't got another chain or something, not be in trouble. Because it happens a lot. So you seen the way I was kind of using the nose. I wasn't using the nose. I was using like the maybe 3 or 4 teeth, and that's how you can kind of cut. That's how you can cut whenever your saw is not dead on. I'm not talking about dull. I'm talking about the rakers, or if you think it's bent or whatever, you can run that bar back and forth and just take out. And that way, not all the cutters are sitting there at once. But hopefully that helps somebody. I mean, there's 100 ways to run a saw, and you've seen the, you know, whenever you're cutting limbs this big, there's only 2 or 3 cutters cutting at a time. But whenever you get in the big one, that's when you're gonna notice it. And whenever you run your saw, you know, whenever you run it over, you're just creating a wedge. Hand me that hammer, guy. Hold this. Here, I'll show you real fast. Let me make a cut right here. Alright, you with me right here? See, I just knocked out what wood. I didn't roll it this way or nothing. So whenever you start out, you run it this way, and you'll get to this point. You'll get to this. So you're starting out here. You're cutting just a little bit of wood. You get down to here right before it starts, right when it starts really pulling. And then you'll rock your saw back this way. See what I'm saying? And then you'll cut down until it starts pulling, then you'll rock it back over, and then you'll keep doing this. That's why you're not really noticing it. Is because how you're working your saw. So, but if you're in big wood, you ain't gonna. If you're in big wood, you ain't gonna be able to avoid it. You'll notice it. There you go, guys. Hopefully that helps. Hope you guys can get your saw straightened out. See you.